Hey guys, what the heck is going on? Sam Cox here with Team Bropire, and coming to you guys today with a deck profile for Apprentice Chaos. This is a deck that, like a lot of the decks on this channel, I've just kind of been playing off and on for sometimes months or years or whatever, but I've had this one in my back pocket for a while, and I put it together 2-3 months ago again, and really started playing it in real life with some friends and online a lot on Dueling Book, and I played a lot of rated duels and stuff, and I've been pretty active with this deck, over the last couple of months, really just try to work out the kinks and give you guys the best profile that I could here on the channel. I do want to point out that it's a very, very, very fun deck, and if you guys are looking for a new deck to play, but still play like the whole chaos aspect, but I would highly recommend this one. This one plays a lot different than regular chaos does, or flip chaos, mainly because you don't play a ton of flips in this deck, and sometimes you play a lot more aggressively with this deck, but at the same time you play sometimes more conservatively, just depending on how it's going at the moment. There's a lot of really cool techs and tricks and stuff with this deck that I'll do my best to kind of explain as I go, but yeah, so we're going to get into the profile. I do want to point out, check out down below Instagram, Twitter, if you guys have that stuff, go follow me. Also, my band stuff, if you guys have Spotify or you guys want to go subscribe to my band on YouTube, feel free to do that. It's all the stuff that I'm not doing while I'm making content here on the channel. So here we go. So first we have 3 copies of Apprentice Magician. This card is kind of really the heart and soul of the deck, but not really, but it's really good, but it's just, it just kind of goes with everything in the whole entire deck. So what this card does is whenever it's summoned, you can place a spell counter on something. It doesn't matter too much on that most of the time, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. Really what you want to do is just have this get destroyed by battle, and you can special summon a level 2 or lower spellcaster face down in defense. Now you can go into another copy of this, or we can go into Magician of Faith. It's really cool to have a card that searches Magician of Faith and just puts it face down. It just kind of does the majority of the steps of resolving this card for you. It's really cool. There's certain scenarios where you want to make sure that you don't summon this card at certain times where, if you know that your opponent has a Blade Knight, or if you know that they have level 2 Swordsman or Creature Swap, or just something random that could make this card not resolve, then don't summon it then. Just look for cues. Pay attention to what your opponent's playing. If they've already used both knocks, then you're probably good to summon this, because you'll probably just resolve it. Most times, you can just go into another copy of itself, and at the right time go into this. At the very least, you're just deck thinning and you're putting darks into the grave. But also at the same time, once this resolve goes to the grave, and then this special summons, and then this goes to the grave, it allows you to kind of have lights and darks, so it kind of just feeds into the chaos engine pretty early on. So and now I want to point out that here lately I've just been playing 2 copies of Sork and 1 copy of BLS. You can play a 3rd Sork if you want to, but I really just feel like 2 and 1 is just kind of the best ratio when you're playing chaos decks. Now there's some chaos decks like maybe chaos, strictly chaos recruiter, angel, tomato chaos, whatever, we can play 3, but you want to try to minimize the chances of opening multiples of these. Sometimes it's really good to have multiples like late game, but for the most part you want to make sure that you get your engines going and stuff before you have these in hand. So next we play 3 copies of Thunder Dragon. Thunder Dragon's a amazing card in Go. I really just need to make a video about Thunder Dragon all by itself, but I'm going to go pretty elementary here for y'all for a second. If you guys don't know why Thunder Dragon is so amazing, or you're just looking up deck profiles and for chaos for Go, now Thunder Dragon just pitched, you get another 2 copies of itself. The beneficial parts of having Thunder Dragon is you deck them by 2. You can protect your hand from things like Spirit Reaper, Thessalos, a Delinquent Duo. Combos are great with things like Charity, card destruction, yours or your opponent's card destruction, whatever. Again, you just get light into the grave just early on, and honestly, sometimes you can have like a tribute monster in your hand for things like Sangan, or your opponent's monster that you snatch, stole, or whatever. Thunder Dragon's an amazing card. Just really kind of feeds well into the light and the dark aspect of this whole entire deck. Next we play 3 copies of Tomato. I really kind of opted out of playing Night Assailant, and I wanted to go kind of a little bit of a different direction. I decided to go Tomato because Tomato can search out the Apprentice Magician, and the Apprentice Magician just combos well with so many things in this deck, especially Magician of Faith. Tomato also is a really good card that you can play aggressively face up and attack, or you can play kind of defensively face down in defense. I will kind of set this card, or set these for a lot of different reasons. One being because if people run over them, you just deck them. You could, especially some of the more copies, and the fact that they're not flip effects. Apprentice Magician isn't a flip effect either, so if they knock this, then you don't have to banish the rest of the copies out of the deck, and there goes your whole strategy. So it's really cool. Tomato can also float into Midoriya or Sangan. This is really good, just offensive / defensive card, I guess, at the same time. Sangan can search almost any of the monsters in your whole entire deck. So yeah, I really like that Dark Engine. We play 2 Light Warriors in this deck. We don't play Rhoda because there really wasn't a whole lot of room for it, but I wanted to kind of play these 2 in this deck because of the fact that we don't play a ton of lights in this deck. So I wanted to make sure that we kind of increased our chances of having lights in the grave by the time that we saw a Chaos monster. Now, this will kind of manage itself a lot of times. This will get knocked. Thunder Dragons, obviously, is just once you see them, you see them. But I feel like this one Blade Knight, this AKA knife fighter, it just kind of, I guess, makes it to where the deck can play these Chaos monsters pretty productively. So I like those 2 warriors in there, and they're just really good utility all by themselves. And they combo well with the deck, so and it kind of makes it to where you can play aggressively more if you need to. Breaker's a really good card I want to talk about all by itself because of the fact that whenever Breaker's on the field, you can summon Apprentice Magician by itself through Premature, Call the Haunted, Tomato, whatever, and you can put another counter on Breaker and pop another card in your opponent's back row. There's been certain plays where this card has become a +2 because of this. So Breaker's a really cool card in this deck, guys. I don't play Breaker in every single, Go deck or every single Chaos deck, but I do in this one for a lot of different reasons. We're going to go into the spells. We'll play 2 copies of Knock, Snatch, Heavy, MST, Premature, Duo. One thing about Premature in this deck is there are so many cards in the grave almost at all times that are really good to be summoned and face-up attack. Whenever you're playing things like, Chaos, sometimes you'll have like Mimic or Merchant, Faith, Yokoichi, Spy, a lot of things that aren't great with Premature all by itself without things like Book of Moon or Tsukiyomi, but almost all the monsters in your grave at all times will be okay to be summoned back by Premature, and you should have some plays with that. 3 copies of Book of Moon. Man, every profile that I do with Book of Moon, I always want to just spend an hour talking about how great this card is, but just a quick rundown. You can combo it with flip effect monsters, things like Faith. Things that can be flipped face down and still be okay whenever your opponent tries to activate things like Sakuratsu, Mirror Force, Ring of Destruction, when your opponent tries to activate their Chaos Orc effect. Book of Moon is just a great card. I do want to point out the fact that Book of Moon is even better in flip Chaos, and it's still amazing at 3 in this deck. So Book of Moon, it's great, guys. Play that card. Now we're going to kind of bleed the spells into the traps for discussion's sake. So we've got 2 copies of Upstart, 1 Pot, 1 Charity, and then 3 copies of Jar. Now we play a ton of draw in this deck because of the fact that we don't play like a ton of monsters, and at the same time I wanted to make sure that we could get to our engine cards as fast as we could, but also at the same time I wanted to make sure that we saw our lights kind of as fast as we could. The faster the better. And I had thought that the monster lineup was damn near perfect without crowding it with cards that slowed it down. So I just decided to add Jar of Greed into the deck. It's a really good card. It allows you to pretty much just set itself for 2 cards with not going too neg on Heavy Storm. If your opponent activates Heavy Storm or MST or Dust Tornado, Breaker, Mobius, whatever, all those cards on the field, then obviously you can chain it and just kind of go plus that way. So so I like Jar of Greed in some decks. This deck is one of them. Call the Haunted is kind of the same aspect as Premature. It's really good in almost every scenario. Then we just kind of play staples. Dust Tornado was just good at 1 because we already played the Heavy and the MST, and I didn't want to play too much back row hate because I wanted to make sure that we weren't clogging up the deck and kind of getting into our combos and stuff. So we're going to get to the side. You guys know me. You know that I don't like playing a ton of cards into the side or showcasing a ton of cards in the side that I don't really need. But I do want to point out some other really good cards that you can play in this deck. Our Old Vindictive Magician. It's kind of like a man-eater bug. You can search it with Apprentice Magician. I opted out of playing that because I'm not playing Night Assailant. You can play Creature Swap because we are playing Tomato, Sangan, and Apprentice. But I don't know. I don't like the fact that I have to have something else with it, or else it's kind of negging for me at that time. Creature Swap's a really good card. If you're gonna play it at 2 and put a lot more floaters into the deck. You can also play things like Royal Decree and side out some of your stuff. Yeah, so other than that, 2 more copies of Blade Knight if you're playing against Flip, Control, or just a lot of other Flip decks. It doesn't hurt the deck at all because you're kind of almost running short on light monsters in this deck anyway. You're kind of right on the border of light not being as relevant in this deck. So adding Blade Knights isn't going to hurt you. Another copy of Nidoria for just problematic stuff. Copy of Jinzo, 2 copies of Mind Control, and 2 copies of Dust Tornado. Mind Control is a really good card at 2 because smart players, 3 won't work on smart players, and 1 I feel like isn't enough. So that's it, guys. That is the whole entire deck. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Feel free to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I would highly recommend checking out this deck and building it yourself if it's something that you want to test out. If you guys are fans of Chaos and want to kind of play something a little bit different. So anyway, guys, thank you all so much, and we'll see y'all later.